Welcome to Blade HQ, everybody. Today is May 15th, and we're going to talk about super high-end sharpeners, whatever this is, and more. First knife on the table is the new CRKT CEO Flipper Compact. And I think this is the CEO that has spoken to me the most of the entire CEO series that has come out so far. You might be able to catch this in B-roll, but we have some holes milled out in the liners, so it lightens the knife up quite a bit. And then it's just enough for me to fit 4 fingers on, but not even a millimeter more than I need. Which I think is sort of the idea here, is this is a knife that is enough to get the job done, especially in some of those more, dare I say, dignified scenarios where, I mean, when you're out in the woods, who cares if you bust out a giant folder, but if you are at dinner and you're trying to remove the foil from some champagne, this is the knife that is the more acceptable one to bring out. And I just really like it. It's a great price too. These go for $49.99, Richard Rogers design, and liner lock mechanism, nice snappy flipper. And my favorite feature of this knife is the only hardware that you can see is a screw back here and the pivot. Everything else is hidden inside. The stop pin, the mechanisms, even the liner actuations for when you're running the lock. It's a very clean looking knife. Kind of reminds me of a fancy pen almost. I think it fits in the same pocket too. Next up, we have the Toor Anaconda. And before we start talking about the knife too much, I want to talk about the sheath. So one thing I like about Toor knife sheaths is they don't rely as heavily on the snap of the sheath up here. They like to just grab the blade of the knife really tight. So you're not gonna hear a snap, but it is in there solid and it is not going anywhere. Just a super easy to use sheath because it just is in and out and then it just pinches the knife in there. It's friction holding it in, not necessarily a snap around a point of the handle. But the Anaconda itself, I think, is a very interesting knife because it definitely is that Toor-like. So like the Toor knife I have is a jank shank, and that thing definitely feels like a tactical knife. And this one can be a tactical knife as well, and I think it probably was designed to be a tactical knife. The ring is here, so if you want to go for a reverse grip, but the handle is still long enough that if you want to just reach your 4 fingers around it, you get a nice comfortable grip. And the blade isn't as thick as some other Toor knives, and it gives you a nice tall grind. So this is going to be a great outdoor utility knife as well. So if you're sort of that one knife option kind of guy or gal who's looking for something that is so ubiquitous, can be used in any situation, and it's just very well built, the Toor Anaconda is a great one. It's the USA made knife, and these are going for $295 at bladehq.com. Next up, we have the CIVIVI Aratra. And I know we mentioned this in a short a little while ago, and I called this a knife. And I figure, well, I mean, it's got blade stock, full tang, all that. It's got the handle scales bolted on. And I don't know, it definitely feels like a knife, almost like kitchen knife-like, especially when you get up here in these holes. But when you get back here, it feels choppy, and people are like, that's not a knife, that's a hatchet. Get it right. And I think they might be right. So when you're up in your hand like this, it definitely feels like a knife. This is a knife, it's not a chopping thing, it's a carving, cutting, whatever. But back here, it feels like a hatchet. It's almost like 2 tools in one. I'd like to see how this chops. I think this would be a great bug out bag knife if you're looking for something to just throw in your bag that's gonna be one knife that may not be perfect, but it'll get the job done no matter what it is. This is the thing. My initial thought for a bug out bag situation would I'd rather have a fixed blade like the Toor and an actual hatchet, maybe like this guy, this Liam Hoffman over here. But if you're a one tool kind of guy, I would think the Aratra can do it, but in the illustrious words of the illustrious James Reeves from TFB TV, it depends on how you do your boogaloo. Anyway, moving on, bit of a story on this one. This is the Fremont Knives Farson blade. I've never actually held one of these in the flesh. When I was a teenager and I was first allowed to use a computer where I had unrestricted access to YouTube, I saw on a channel called Ultimate Survival Tips, Dave did a review of this thing. I'm like, that is an interesting knife. And we finally got them in at Blade HQ. And like, what a bizarre thing. So it's definitely an ulu sort of cutting tool. So if you ever seen those Alaskan blades, they're just really nice for ergonomic wrist use and cutting all kinds of things. But then it's got this belly and more up here. So you can lash it to a stick and turn it into a hatchet, or you can use it to cut pizza, or I don't know. Like, this is definitely a tool that can slide into a lot of roles. but it is also very, very slim and small and easy to carry around because it just snaps into this sheath, and that's small enough to fit into a back pocket, slide into a backpack. It's very light, but it offers a lot of utility, and it's also very affordable, $41.95 right now. Going up to a next knife from Ontario Knife and Tool, we have the SPL pack knife. So the SPL pack knife is the first Ontario knife I'm aware of to have a CPM MagnaCut blade steel. And if you haven't heard about MagnaCut, go check out our videos about it. MagnaCut is some of the best steel out there. Definitely my favorite blade steel. And what I love about this one is its price. This goes for $124.95. You're getting USA made MagnaCut G10 and this very interesting sheath. I'm not sure the sheath is quite my favorite, but I definitely see its merits. It's a single piece of injection molded plastic, so there's no parts to fall off, and then you have this interesting actuator that retains the knife very nicely. So you're getting the corrosion resistance of MagnaCut, so I wouldn't be afraid taking this around water, maybe throwing it in the tackle box. It's got 2 different belt loops, so if you wanted to run it really high up on your hip like this, or maybe inverted, or maybe just run straps and strap it to your leg or something, lots of options there, but I just love this design. It fits the hand just right. It's not too heavy, but not too light. I feel like I could really do some work with it. And one thing I love about Ontario's is sometimes knife companies go to great lengths to finish their knives, to make them look perfect at every angle. And this definitely looks finished. It looks like somebody took their time and they ground the spine and everything, but it doesn't look so ornate that I'm afraid to use it. And that's something that I'm trying to break through with my ProTech Malibu. I carry this a lot nowadays because I'm like, I just want to get that first scratch on it so I don't feel so bad about it anymore. This one, I do not feel bad about putting the first scratch on it. I would pull this out of the box and go baton wood with it day one. And there's something to be said for that in a knife. Keeping it with Ontario and their new stuff for the year, we have the Rat #1. And this one has the CPM S35 VN blade and a red G10 handle. So originally the Rat 1 had an AUS 8 blade and an FRN handle, and then you can get the models with D2 as well, and then there were eventually some assisted options that had G10. But this is the first manual Rat 1 with G10, and definitely the first Rat 1 with S35 VN, which is a much finer premium steel that is great for all kinds of everyday carry use. In fact, you see it a lot on higher end knives. But these ones are going for $99.95, which is just a solid deal. And a lot of people have been begging for this for years. They love the design, they love the build quality, they love everything about the Rat 1. They were just like, I would love a little more edge retention and corrosion resistance. And Ontario listened, and the Rat 1 with those lovely materials and this lovely red are here to stay. It's great. I'm very excited to see this from Ontario. Next up, new on pre-order from We, so you can't get this right now, but you can pre-order it. We have the Matthew Christensen designed Riff Raff. And this one's a titanium frame lock, like We is known for making. But I gotta tell you, this is probably the lightest per inch, I guess least dense titanium frame lock I've ever held. And you might be able to catch this in B-roll as well. There are really nice big pockets milled in the titanium in here. So this knife is feather light, even though you get that full titanium. And when it runs so smooth. It rockets open, very nice tuned detent. And I love these grooves they've milled in. It gives you just a little bit of grip in the hand, and it gives a bit of a aesthetic to it that kind of matches the backspacer here. But it's not so much it's gonna chew up your pocket or your hand. Just a very well put together knife. And it's definitely a bit off the beaten path of Matthew Christensen designs. His other big one from We is the Thug. And the Thug looks a little less refined than this one, as I would assume Thugs generally do. But just a great knife. I really like this one. This might be my favorite We knife we've seen yet this year. Next up, from Lynch Northwest, we have these special modified Spyderco Delicas. So these are Lynch Northwest scales and of course a Lynch Northwest pocket clip, all on the iconic Spyderco Delica. And these ones are full mods, full custom builds, in the USA. The blades from Spyderco are made in Japan though, so bear that in mind. But these ones are definitely a different level of Delica. Delicas were sort of built to be these lightweight everyday carriers, but I think putting this titanium on here and dressing it up like this has definitely turned this into a very premium feeling knife. So if you love the Delica, like I know so many people do, this is a really great option if you want something to dress it up a little bit. They go for different prices depending on which steel you have and which anodize you have. This particular model goes for $220 at Blade HQ. Pick these up before they're gone. We don't have a whole ton of them. And then lastly, this large contraption that has been teasing us this entire video is the Worksharp Precision Adjust Pro. And we just have this set up with just the fine stone here, but it's got a lot of interesting gadgets going on, and we could do an entire video on that. But what you should know about this is the finest Worksharp sharpener to date. It is very precise in its adjustments. It has a very nice clamp system that can grab a flat grind. It's got this brace here for in case you don't want to bend the blade down and adjust your angle at all. I've been playing with this and I have put some downright terrifyingly sharp edges on knives. The sharpest edges I've ever done. It is foolproof to the point that even I can do it. And it just feels solid, it looks good. It is one of the best sharpeners to date, and these are on pre-order as of today. So go up, get yours now. It's a $5 down payment, and then when they ship, and they'll ship in the order the orders were placed, when they ship, you will be charged the rest of it. But this is the sharpener to get of 2023. I really like them. I think I'll have to order one of my own. Anyway, thank you all for joining us today at Blade HQ. We hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. Let us know what you think in the comments, and if you like stuff like this, subscribe to Blade HQ for more. There's gonna be links to all of these knives below, so if anything interests you, go check it out over at bladehq.com, and we'll see you at the next one.